Could we shift gears a minute and go to fair use, which is it's a hot topic in part of our circles, and the Andy Warhol, Lynn Goldsmith case has been an interesting topic of discussion. And I'm curious, in general, what your thoughts are. I think there's, for us, I think for us, meaning the industry, it's perceived to be a critical. There's people on both sides of the issue in this organization, but it's perceived to be a very critical case in terms of being able to license derivative works and so forth. So I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, the Copyright Office actually participated in the government amicus brief that was filed. So we have been quite involved, and I personally was at the oral argument, which was fascinating, and one of the first oral arguments in person the Supreme Court has held in several years. I think what's really important about the case, first of all, is that, as the Second Circuit had pointed out, it doesn't pit art versus something else. It's artists on both sides. It's artists who are trying to make a living from their photography, and also artists that are interested in creating derivative art or appropriation art, whatever you want to call it, new forms of art, building on using elements of something from the past. So there's some balance that needs to be struck there. What's really important about the case is the specific facts, because the case did not involve whether Andy Warhol could use Lynn Goldsmith's photograph as a fair use. First of all, that claim would have been barred by the statute of limitations, but it involved a very specific use, which was a use of one of his silk screens of her photograph as an illustration for a magazine article about the subject of the photograph, which was Prince. And that's quite different. And that clearly has a much greater impact on her market. It's a much more competitive use, and it's less transformative, right? It's using the work for the same purpose as a portrait of the subject in an article about the subject. So very important to notice, it's not about whether Warhol could use the photograph in the silkscreen. It's not about whether a magazine could write an article about Warhol's techniques and use the image, and it's not an article, and it's not a case about a museum having a display of the silk screens. So I think that makes all the difference. But in any event, the big concern is, how do you define what is transformative use for the purpose of fair use without undermining the derivative work right for the initial author? Because derivative works are defined as works that recast or transform the original. And so if you say anytime someone adds new material and meaning to an original work, to another work, it's transformative and therefore likely to be fair use, you're sort of saying there's no longer a derivative work right to be licensed. So that was the main focus of the government brief. And then the other issue is, should even a determination that a use is transformative resolve the fair use issue? In fact, should it have such great weight that essentially once a court decides that a use is transformative, it almost by definition decides that it's fair use, or should it just be one factor that's weighed in the balance? So those are the issues I think that the court is going to be grappling with.
I think it's going to be exciting and interesting when the decision comes down.
Leslie, you said that you were switching gears, but this decision, although what the facts of the case are about are one thing, what the holding is in that ultimate opinion could have a significant effect on this whole AI issue in terms of machine learning and what content, whether the content fed to the AI is fair use or is a lawful use.
Yeah, and actually on the form of derivative, I would suspect. I am really sorry because this hour went super fast, but we are at time. I want to thank you all very much for agreeing to come and talk with us. I hope that we can figure out a way that DMLA can continue to, even perhaps help or inform some of the things that you all do. We also participated in an amicus brief for the anti. Thank you very much, both of you, Shira and Rob. We greatly appreciate your participation today. And I think we'll call that the end of the webinar. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.